Hi there, traders. This is Brad Goodwood with the Daily Market Insight for Monday, the 6th of November. All right, the dollar, it's got the wobbly boot. Okay, Friday's non-farm payrolls numbers, not quite so good. So the dollar has had a massive turnaround, right? And that was expected on the weaker numbers. Okay, now it could have gone either way, but unemployment rate slightly out. The non-farm payrolls itself was slightly weaker. So we've seen the dollar sort of turn around, okay? And just looking at the global markets, in particular the equity markets, they are loving it, right? Sort of generally means, or the market's factoring in the end of the Fed interest rate hikes, and we are seeing the equity markets really kick back with that. Now, just having a look here, I'll just flick over here to the currencies. You get the same aspect, right? Dollar sell-off across the board, the dollar index, dollar Swiss, dollar yen. As I was saying, we probably should be watching dollar yen a bit more here, because now we've got a bit of a weak dollar sentiment. I know the dollar will drift lower naturally, but the BOJ could give it a kick in the guts and really send it lower much quicker. Dollar CAD lower, and euro, sterling, Aussie, Kiwi all pumping to the top side, right? The key aspect for what I'm looking for is, well, I like the uniform sort of sell-off, right? It's across the board. But we are seeing also, excuse me, the bond yields continuing to fall, right? And just having a look at the market just right now, you got to think we're going to get a risk-on profile across the board. It's not sort of unanimous. And we are seeing, euro, sterling, Aussie, Kiwi sort of pretty flat. The dollar just drifting lower, right? That's sort of where we're at. So there is a bit of a risk-on profile. Prices, well, if anything, prices are a little bit lower. So the yields have gone up during the Asian session, but no like major change in overall sentiment, right? So that's with those non-farm payrolls, it gives us the sentiment to lead into this week. And that's what you got to be thinking, right? So if I just get up the calendar this week and focusing on the sort of top two tier levels of data, okay, the IB PMI, okay, and like the high impacting numbers are respected numbers that if you get small variance, you get a decent move, right? So that's what these are. I'll be watching these very closely as we go through the week. Balance of trade. Actually, China's balance of trade figures are so massive, they are worth watching, because you can see if there's a big change in their exports, a big drop in their exports, well, that's going to hit them pretty hard. We've got the RBA interest rate decision on Tuesday. 0.25% is factored in, right? So, you know what? Even though the economy in Australia is struggling, they still seem to think there's a need to raise rates. We'll have to see how that plays out. There's no major US numbers here, right? So you look at Monday, you come through Tuesday, we've got a few Fed officials or cronies coming out having a bit of a speech. Okay, but no major turnaround numbers that we can really get stuck into, because what I'm looking for now is a nice solid US number to really give the dollar that last kick in the belly, and we'll see it really run to the downside. Wednesday, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell is speaking. Okay, and then you got Williams, Barr, and Jefferson also having a bit of a speech. Bank of Canada summary of deliberations. It's like the minutes, okay? Then you come into Thursday, and I guess once again, it's not uncommon for most weeks, right? Inflation numbers for China, very important for the Aussie and Kiwi and the yuan, obviously. Then we have the weekly jobless numbers, right? Now, these numbers are usually inconsequential, but if there's nothing else going on, the market will focus on them. But they will be listening to what anything Fed Chairman Powell has to say. And then you come into Friday, the sterling is front and center, manufacturing production numbers, GDP growth. And then if I just scroll down a touch, ECB President Christine Lagarde is speaking, right? So like she's the queen of the pops for the Eurozone. So Friday, you put down on your journal, have a good look at sterling and obviously the euro with Christine Lagarde. Otherwise, University of Michigan consumer sentiment numbers there as well on Friday. So really, not a lot of data as in US dollar numbers, right? We have more Fed officials speaking than numbers. So it's one of those sort of in between transition weeks. There was so much data last week. It's a shame they couldn't spread it out, but You got to think Tuesday, well, the Aussie's going to be front and center with this interest rate decision sort of factored in. With that factored in and Aussie already up, right, you wouldn't be buying if they raised rates, right? Because unless they were sort of talking about doing it again. But as I said, the housing market and a few other things in Australia are struggling, so I can't see that really. And we're just going to have to go with the flow, because without those big, hard-hitting US numbers, right, it's going to come down to what's happening on the equity markets, right? You're probably going to see a little bit of a balancing from last week. Yields, well, the sentiment is set, right? So at the moment, yields are down. You'd think the US dollar would sort of drift lower and Euro, Sterling, Aussie higher, right? And we've got a bit of Euro, a bit of Sterling, bit of Aussie data coming out. So keep an eye on that as we go through. But the whole week will be sentiment driven from equity markets. I think the bonds will have a bit of a breather of a week. Okay, so keep an eye on the risk on, risk off profiles coming from the equity markets into the currencies and then down through the commodities. And we'll see how it plays out from here. All right. So a bit of a, not like massively upbeat week, but funnily enough, when the weeks are there without the crazy numbers, sometimes you start to see the currencies or the financial instruments start to drift, and the sentiment is down, right? The dollar, this is like a turnaround. So we might see a little bit of a retracement this week without the US numbers, but it will depend on the Euro, Sterling, Aussie, Kiwi numbers, and that's how we're going to play it from here. All right, guys, have a good week. All the best. Cheerio.